I will rewrite human history, making use of Neanderthal DNA. What you see on this world map is Neanderthal DNA. In fact, it's the whole genome haplotype B006, but it represents the Neanderthals. What you can clearly see is that Neanderthals have little or nothing to do with sub-Saharan Africa. They have a little bit to do with Europe. They have something to do with India, a certain part of India. And they have about everything to do with the Americas. And most of all, North America, but here, South America, this area that is between Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Central America as well. So Neanderthal carry mitochondrial Eve DNA, which is mtDNA haplogroup L. It's mitochondrial Eve DNA. It's supposed to be African. And the Neanderthals carried it. That is only recently, very recently admitted by scientists. So the Neanderthal carried mitochondrial Eve DNA. In other words, mitochondrial Eve, so-called African Eve, is not the first modern human female ancestor. In fact, if you don't look any further, the Neanderthals were the first female or mitochondrial Eve DNA ancestor. What I'm telling here is that Neanderthals are not European, not African, we knew that. They are American. And since they carry mitochondrial Eve or mitochondrial haplogroup L, also mitochondrial Eve is American. It's American, not African. I will show evidence later. The mitochondrial Eve DNA in Africa is much later than this one that you see here in the Americas. In this and other videos, this is South America. This gyre and currents is important, as well as this gyre and currents. And this part is part of the two gyres. And it goes west very strongly. Roughly half of the planet, 20,000 kilometers. And it also gets further until Madagascar and Africa, but also to India, the Middle East, the Red Sea, and to the Cape here, or the Horn. The other gyre, very important, is this one, and it starts here at the corner of Brazil, and it goes across the north coast of South America and across the east coast of North America, Iceland, UK, Western Europe, and goes as far as Africa, and then turns back. Okay, for now, this current will also be important because it will deliver to South Africa, South and East Africa. Um, Again, American origin delivered to South and East Africa. Here, American origin delivered to North America, Iceland, Western Europe, Mediterranean, Black Sea, Middle East, and Africa. We saw the evidence that Neanderthal DNA is American, and while it's more in North America, its origin is in South America, just as the modern humans have their origin in South America. And this is more or less related to the Soroi and the Catriana. And because the Neanderthal concentrations are close, Soroi and Catriana are in this kind of triangle: Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, and the Neanderthal are as well. So we claim that when Neanderthals are exported on ships by modern humans, um, while in essence these are the Surui and Catriana and descendants, these are also other hybrids that are um, archaics but not Neanderthals. And these archaics um, still living are, amongst others, modern humans with mitochondrial DNA L, that is the so-called African Eve, but it starts here, and it's initially carried by these archaics, and then also with Neanderthals that are accompanied, supervised by these archaics and modern humans like Surui and Catriana. Okay, when uh, they can go to this current and deliver the mitochondrial Eve DNA or the mitochondrial haplogroup L to um, this and other parts of Africa, here through the South Atlantic current, and here through the North Atlantic current. Anyhow, this is in between and is affected, can be reached by both currents. So the American origin, mitochondrial Eve, so-called or wrongly called African Eve, is delivered to Amazon, other rivers, in any case from South America to Africa, South Africa, this part of Africa, North Africa, and in fact also through these currents here to the Horn or to this region. So Neanderthal and uh, mitochondrial Eve DNA are associated to this region, and this region is associated to the Surui Catariana, um, which have ancestry across the Austronesian expansion. This all belongs to the Austronesian expansion. This belongs to the Austronesian expansion, and apparently it reaches here the Middle East, but it doesn't reach this part of sub-Saharan Africa. This Neanderthal DNA, just as the Surui Catariana DNA, through the Amazon River, reaches this Atlantic gyre and arrives in Europe, Mediterranean, and at least to some extent Africa. So you can see it didn't reach further than this. So the Austronesian expansion didn't reach further than this. So both directions, this direction and this direction, didn't reach sub-Saharan Africa. This part was reached through the Atlantic, Amazon, other South American rivers. Atlantic crossing following the gyre, just like the whales, the turtles, the eels, and all migrating fish. The same here. Just this Austronesian expansion is following the whales, turtles, eels, and migrating fish, and they can extend until here. But not the east expansion nor the west expansion reached sub-Saharan Africa.